I don't like being first. Like anyone ever been first place before? Raise your hand. Anyone ever been first place? I've been first place. Raise your hand if you ever been first place before in anything. It could be silly. You could be playing T-ball or like running around playing some silly game with your friends and you were first place. It feels good. You want to win, right? You want to experience all the glory in the world. Like just being first place, maybe playing a little game of Scramble. I don't know. Scrabble, playing a little Tetris. You want to win. And some of you guys might be at the arcade playing that Dance Revolution game. I don't know if you guys have heard of that. That's a pretty interesting game, but some people are just amazing at it. It's crazy, like hours and hours of Dance Revolution. If you ever done it, go try it, man. You'll lose 20 pounds in 3 months if you do that every day. And you might be like, hey, I don't want to stand out. I don't feel like I'm that type of person. And I know some of you told yourself that because I tell myself that sometimes too, like, hey, I don't want to be first place. I don't want to, I'm okay with second place. I'm okay with third. And some of you might forget, like might not think that you're very competitive, right? Or maybe you lost that competitive nature and you don't feel like you have it at all before growing up. Like sometimes I feel like I'm not competitive, like because I'm okay with everything. It's okay. I can be second. It's okay. I don't have to be first. Oh, it's okay. You don't have to pick me to be a part of the team. I'm not that great. It's okay. But 100%, all of us have something inside of us that makes us competitive. Why is that important? And today I want to share a little bit about why it's important. So the previous Sunday, I met up with some friends, super close friends of mine. We went, so they're a little bit older than me. I tend to hang out with people older than me. And if you guys don't have older friends, and when I'm talking about old, I'm 37. These guys are like in their 50s, 60s. Once in a while, I'll have a friend that in their 70s. They don't last very long when they're in their 70s. They tend to they go away a little bit sooner. But I do have friends a little bit older. And if you guys, the reason why I recommend hanging out with older friends or getting older friends is because they have wisdom and knowledge that you can learn from, because they have more life experience, because through experience is where you get wisdom. And so I have a lot of older friends. And on this particular day, a friend of mine, much older, he's like 65, extremely successful in his own way. He was a retired SVP of an international fintech banking company. He didn't really, go into detail specifically which company it was because I'm like, hey man, tell me what stock I should buy. And he's like, no, I don't want to do that. I might get arrested. But he retired from this fintech company. He'd been doing that for like 30 or 40 plus years. And then I have another friend who owns a plumbing business. He's a master plumber, and he also a triathlete. So he runs triathlon, and he is like 54. And I'm amazed that at 54, this guy can handle that much pain and endurance, right? And he's the one that got me into training and doing triathlon and running miles and miles. He does an average 30 miles a week. And he does a bunch of other stuff too as well. And I'm always inspired and impressed by their, the expertise, their dedication to working, to their craft. They don't plan on retirement. They want to relax, but they still work on what it is that they're good at. So on this day, we set up this ride. It's around this lake called White Rock. It's about 30 minutes from where I live. It was around 7 p.m. We met up. The sun was cooling down. And it's hot in Texas. It's like 90, even if though the sun's down, it's like 90 degrees outside. It's hot. And we chose the evening time, so it'll be a little bit cooler, but still 90. And I just want to start it off a little bit later in the day, just so that maybe I can hang with them. But of course, it's still hot. But the main reason why we met up was because I needed more training for this Ironman that I was planning to do in Arizona. I thought my friend had forgotten about it. I told him at the beginning of the year, last year, well, the end of last year at December, and I mentioned about it a little bit. He's like, "Yeah, I'm down." And then he reminded me, and I was like, "Oh, darn, now I made a commitment I gotta keep." He's like, "Hey, you still coming with me? Have you been training?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, of course, man. Let's go train." So I'm fully committed, uh, and I only have a few more months left to keep training. And the last few months, I've been ramping up my training schedule. And today was one of those training days, right? For me to prepare myself, especially on the cycling side. I'm supposed to get comfortable, and I'm supposed to be able to cycle road bike, ride a road bike around a track for about 120 miles. And I've never done that before. And so today was that day where I'm like learning how to do 20 miles, 30 miles, 50 miles. And because the event is challenging, now I'm nervous and I'm worried and I'm scared. I'm like, I don't want to drown. I don't want to fall off the bike and hurt myself. I don't want to roll an ankle and fail and let myself down. And so today I went to prepare. I know I will finish, but I don't want to just show up and be unprepared. Like that's the worst thing you can do. So after months of slacking on my training due to, a bunch of random things, foot injury, traveling to Asia, and I canceled my Europe trip because I had to train for this thing. Because I was like, okay, the kids not making the trip fun, bringing them along is not helping me with the training. So me and my wife decided to just cancel the whole thing because I was like, okay, I'm more afraid of, losing money on this trip than failing this challenge that I just committed to a friend of mine. Again, he's reminding me now. And the worst part of it is, last thing about this triathlon is very meaningful to him because one of his closest friend who we were supposed to run with through this Ironman passed away. So it was very meaningful to him for this specific Ironman. He'd done a bunch of them, but this one specifically I was supposed to do with this guy because I had never met this guy, but it was his first one too as well, and so he passed away, and so my friend was supposed to run with him. It was one of his best friends. So now I'm like, oh shoot, now I'm more committed. Okay, like I got a guy, like honor I gotta keep up here. This guy, we're gonna be maybe wearing his bib or something. I don't know what we're gonna do, but I gotta finish. I gotta show up. I can't just quit now. So today I was riding this road bike for the first time. It's called a Cervelo. It's a pretty expensive bike that I borrowed from him, and I was like, please, please God, don't let me crash. I don't want to damage this bike because it's like several $1,000s. I don't want to replace the bike. So it's a triathlete friend. He let me borrow it. And so we went out and this bike, I mean, it's expensive. I mean, you can look at road bikes, certain bikes can go up to 5 grand to 10 grand. So this one was kind of like in the middle of that range. And I was like, okay, I didn't know that. So, I was blessed to have someone that can share that with me. He has a bunch of bike and, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I'm riding the Lambo of road bikes. This is awesome. This is nice. The seats weren't very comfortable, like a real Lambo as well. That's just not comfortable. The seat's just not cushiony, but it's designed to go really fast. I got my gear set up. I got my cleats. There's a dress code. You guys ever seen those dudes that rides road bikes? There's a dress code, right? They just look a certain way. It doesn't matter if you had a six pack or a non six pack look, like a one pack. It didn't matter. You just gotta have this look. It's real tight. Well, that's how I had to dress up. That was I needed an extra few hundred miles for me to get that look. You know what I mean? And so you guys don't laugh, all right? Not everybody carries a six pack every single day, right? We all trying here. I know Mirza's trying too, right? We all trying. We are trying to get there. But, I was told that this was an expensive hobby from the local bike shop when I took it over there to get it maintenance and tune up. But I never ridden this thing before. And when we started riding, the only thing I was worried about was like, okay, let's not fall off. Let's just focus on keeping up. And, and I told myself, I'm going to fall. It's going to hurt, but it's going to be okay. And that's what I told myself. And that helped a lot of, alleviate a lot of the pressure that was on my mind. And that's how I go into a lot of situations. Like one of the prayers that I do every single day was like, no matter what happened, everything's going to be okay. Every single day, that's how I live my life. No matter what happened, everything is going to be okay. That's my preparation in the morning. No matter what happened, everything is going to be okay. And you got to remind yourself that. We live each day right now. So, got our clips on. We took off. I'm right behind them. And, I'm just hopping on this seat. First time, my butt's hurting already. And this thing got no cushion. I was like, hey, man, can I just get more cushion on this pad? And he was like, dude, don't do it. It's going to hurt a lot more. And I'm like, okay, sure. Great. I'm going to trust you on this. So minimal padding, road bike, expensive bike, but just sucks. There's not much luxury experience out of this thing. And so as we were riding, discomfort, my butt hurt. Like this thing sucks. And 20 mile, like 15 miles in, I'm just like, dude, like I'm struggling here. This bike is light and thin, so any little movement was like wobbling this whole thing. And I almost lost my balance a few times, but something about me just puddling behind them just irritated me. I was like, man, I gotta catch up. Like, even though I didn't want to be first, I always felt really irritated that I wasn't able to catch up as fast as he was. Right. You know, he was just pedaling uphill and he had no problems while I'm just breathing really hard. I'm sweating. You know, I felt like the heat was getting to me, my shoulders hurting. And, you know, it's like as if he was challenging me. And this is what he told me as he was riding. I was like, "Hey man, do you shift gears often, right? You know, this so on a road bike, on a 11 gear bike, there's different levels. So as you shift down, shift up, it makes the bike a lot easier for you to climb." He was like, "Yeah, I stay on one gear so that I can go through the entire thing. The most difficult gear for me, I just stay on one and I ride the whole route. So it doesn't matter if you go up and down a hill, I stay on one. I train to get stronger, not to get faster. And once that gear get easier, he shift to a harder gear." And I was like, man, that's a whole lesson in itself. I can dig into that all day, but you know, that's not the conversation today. And his goal was just to build up strength for 100 miles, one gear at a time. Just get better on that one gear. And, you know, just focusing on the speed of getting there is not important. The goal is to build strength and endurance on a long, hard ride and the mental endurance to ride through it. And, you know, I was like, I need to do that. I need to be on that level. Because I felt kind of like, man, I've been shifting left and right. I was just trying to make it easier on myself and like trying to figure out all the things that was, you know, I got to do to make it easier to climb this hill. Because if you guys ever ridden a bike, riding uphill, it's pretty hard. If you guys ever seen the Tour de France, there's a Netflix documentary about it. If you guys are interested, look it up. It's a pretty interesting documentary. Man, it's intense. It's Tour de France. Look it up. It might want to get you into cycling, but climbing uphill on a bike is not fun. It's like, I don't know, 2 miles an hour riding uphill, and you probably run faster than the guy, but some guys would just plow up there, you know? It's like climbing a mountain on a bike. It's ridiculous. But you know, why am I sharing that is because, you know, in that moment, I wasn't trying to be competitive. I was not trying to compete, but for some reason, it just when he told me that, I just felt kind of like frustrated. I was like, I want to compete. I want to do that too. You know, when I was young, I never thought about me being a competitive person. My parents didn't really push me to go into sports. I got into like soccer because a friend was like, "Hey, go do this." And I was like, "Okay, why not? Sure." I did not think that I was someone who wanted to win or be at the top. You know, I thought I was someone who wanted to be chilled and relaxed, right? Second place is always a chill place too, as well. Who doesn't like being at second place sometimes? You don't get all the pressure. Second place, there's no pressure. Maybe some of you guys feel the same way, right? You want to be at the top of your class, but it's okay. Let that girl be at the top of the class. If she fails pretty hard. You're second place. It's okay. Nobody's watching. Second place. And I know some guys might be feeling the same, like I'm not that person, right? You felt like I'm not competitive. Raise your hand if you felt like you weren't competitive growing up. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Yeah, if you weren't competitive, raise your hand. So the reason why this is so important, why I want to talk about it is some of you think that you're not competitive, but the truth is you're not giving yourself the permission to win. You're not giving yourself the permission to go after it because you continuously tell yourself, I'm not a competitive person. But just think about what a competitive person is. Like, I'm not that, like, you might be thinking, I'm not that person. But the truth is, everyone is competitive. No matter who you are, everybody has a competitive instinct. It is in our biology. So just think about survival. Like, come on. If you're not competitive, you lose the rabbit. If you're not competitive, somebody's gonna steal your strawberries. Like you got one strawberry sitting there hanging on a bush, and you got nothing else to eat, and it's you and another person. 100% you're gonna be running after that strawberry. And whoever get there first, gonna get the strawberry. That's the natural instinct. All of us have that. And if you don't have that, you might not have made it this far. And I feel sorry for your generation because you might not make it this far to where you were sitting here today. And that's what happened for millions of years. The competitive instinct is inside of us. And, because we have such a comfortable lifestyle now, we don't think about being competitive. Maybe you grew up in an environment that didn't push you to be competitive. And maybe the competitive nature left you a long time ago because you didn't know what it felt like to be competitive. I'm not a competitive person. You might hear yourself saying, I prefer to be easygoing because there's less pressure to be competitive. So let's talk about the process of finding that competitive edge, right? Let's talk about the competitive edge that we have. To do that, we got to start with a competitive analysis. Let's find out what our competitive natures are. Right. So in business, there's this thing called a SWOT analysis, and strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat. And that's how we find, that's how we analyze our competitive edge compared to the competitors that exist in our market. And if you guys are in corporate, in business, you probably heard this, or maybe went to business school. You heard about this. And some of this thing can be applied to your personal life as well. Finding your strength, understanding your weaknesses, and what opportunities are in front of you. All of those things are great. Now, just remember, just because you're not competitive, just because you're not playing sports, just because you're not doing anything like, considered to be like, hey, you have to be competitive, and it doesn't mean you're not competitive. Just because you play games doesn't mean you're not competitive. So let's talk about let's identifying what is competition. The word competitive means as good or better than others of comparable nature, right? As good or better. You just want to be as good or better than others of comparable nature. So when you talk about the meaning in your personal life, you start noticing some areas that you're very competitive in. Right? Being competitive. So the reason why we want to be competitive, because it helps us avoid being complacent, because second place makes you lazy because there's no pressure. Wanting to be in second place makes you lazy. Wanting to be average makes you lazy. But when you say, I want to be the best, you have to have the mentality, your attitude of, I want to be the best. That's when you get competitive. And being competitive gets you motivated, gets you to grow faster, gets you to go after it. And someone who's like the opposite of that, non-competitive, is disinterested or passive, pretty much passive. Anyone who's not competitive tend to be disinterested in doing things. They tend to be more passive. Right? When you're not competitive, you're like, it's okay, I don't want to participate. I don't want to do too much. So having this competitive, like a non-competitive attitude, actually really bad for your progress, because you're not operating from a place of urgency, right? We have to be urgent at everything that we do. Are you guys urgent right now? Are you guys living as if you're not going to make it tomorrow? Who's living like they're not going to make it tomorrow? Raise your hand. Not a lot of people, right? We're not living as if we're going to die tomorrow. Okay, Gabriel may be living urgently, as if somebody has a gun to his head and be like, hey, you better go show up for work. If not, right? Imagine somebody put a gun to your head and say, hey, I need you to show up. I need you to show up to the gym. I need you to show up for your kids. I need you to show up for your business. I need you to show up for your career. I need you to show up. Imagine that. You live differently. You're going to be hella competitive. So right now, the issue that we have is that we're directing our competitive instinct, our competitiveness, towards the wrong place. So let's start with competitive analysis and get down in your personal life. So where do you see yourself wanting to be good at or better than others? That's how we identify where, right? So for example, in school, if you're currently in school, at your job, you want to climb up the ladder, maybe in beauty, right? Women tend to be very competitive towards other women. You guys, yes, that's true. Very true. Like, I was told this story. My wife was sharing this with me. It was like something that she heard from one of her friends. She was like, yeah, did you see you know, like, so my wife friend, she was sharing with me that one of her friend was like, hey, I saw the rock that you have, and then she went home and she told her husband, she, what, and her husband was like, was telling her husband was like, hey man, thank God you didn't buy a 5 carat ring, man, because my wife would have been like, you better get me a 10 carat ring, you know? And I was like, what? I didn't know people do that. I didn't know women do that because, you know, because how big the diamond is. And so women are directing the competitiveness in the wrong place. We direct our competitiveness sometimes to our physical body, men comparing their competitiveness to their money, their cars. Some people who play games a lot, they compete in the game. They want to be better at gaming. Right? You guys know soccer moms, man, they're crazy. They're hella competitive. And they're not even the one playing the game. They're just there with their kids and they want their kids to win. So remember, you are competitive. Sometimes you just want to look better than the girl next to you. You want to look better than your friend. Right? You just want to stand out. You're directing your competitive nature to the wrong thing. But you're competitive. Trust me. Everyone has a competitive nature. So in what areas are you finding yourself wanting to do better? Just think about that. Like right now, where? Like some people are just, you know, focused heavily on the way they look. They want to feel better, look better, six pack. Like for me, like who am I competing with? Right? Who am I like, why am I trying to get a six pack? I'm married. I'm not out there trying to get a six pack to pick up women, you know, with another dude fighting against another dude. No, I don't need a six pack. But I might be competing with against another dad, right? I don't know. I haven't met another dad. Only a few dads I met with a six pack. I'm a little jealous. Not too much, but you know, I'm working a little bit harder right now. But I got 2 kids, so I have a reason to struggle a little bit on that area. Yeah, for me, you know, for me, I noticed that I want to be the same or better when it comes to like competition. You know, when it comes to challenges I'm taking on, I want to, you know, for me, I want to win in a conversation to get my point across. That's my competitive instinct. Like I want to win when it comes to sometimes arguments or debate. So you have to think about that. And and so once you identify that you know now that you are competitive, you just got to start thinking about what's the area that I want to direct that competitiveness. You got to give yourself permission to be competitive. Now you're aware of it. Awareness is the next step, really is important because when you don't have awareness, how can you be competitive? Because now you understand, okay, I have competitive instinct. Everyone here has some competitive instinct. You want to win. You want to beat your friend. You want to look better than your friend, maybe. I don't know. You want to get better at your job. You want to compete against your coworker. Now you're competitive. And you know, trying to outdo somebody is a competitive nature. So now you understand the awareness. So where do I compare myself to the most? Who do I compare myself to? Which area of my life am I envious or jealous? And that's a type of competitiveness too. It's not great. Now, jealousy is a type of competitive behavior that can motivate a desire for you to grow competitively, but it can also be damaging too if you sit in it too long. So, you know, don't have that attitude for too long, but it is a type of competitive nature. When you're jealous, that means you want something that you ain't got. That's what jealousy is. Right? When the target has been obtained, but you're unsure if you can happen to you. Like somebody got it, but you're not sure if you got it. That's what jealousy is. You're not confident enough to be able to go out there and get it yourself. And you don't know if you're gonna be able to get it. That's what jealousy is. So competitiveness from jealousy is like it happens in pursuit of a target or a goal, but when the target has been obtained by somebody else, not you, and you are unsure it could happen to you, that's when you get jealous. That's what it is. And it can't, this is damaging, but if you get jealous, that's a competitive instinct. So now I know 100%. Somebody been jealous and envious. Raise your hand if you've been jealous and envious ever in your life. Raise your hand. Yes. Don't lie. It's okay. I've been jealous, right? I've been jealous. And you know what the worst thing is? Like I get jealous when I see like a guy younger than me just killing it. And I'm like, man, I'm jealous. I'm jelly. Like it's upsets me. You know, like, dude, that dude got a six pack. That's nice. Why is that dude so tall? I can't grow that tall, right? I'm 5'11", but I met a guy. This guy, I'm just like, geez. So he is like 6'9". I'm talking about just jacked. He's in venture capital, investing a bunch of random companies, startups. And I'm like, dang, this dude is so successful. I am jealous. Luckily, I told him I was jealous, but I'm very proud. I was grateful to have met him. So there was a good, like, I treated very well because I tell them, I'm like, dude, I'm so jelly of you, man. Just straight up say it so that there's no hard, there's none of that resentment inside you. If you're jealous of somebody, just tell them, man, I'm so jealous of how great you look. Like, don't hold it in and just sit in that because it's definitely going to eat you away. Next thing you know, it's going to turn negative, and then you don't want that. Now you're just resentful and you're going to hate on that person. So don't be that type of person. You don't want to hate on people. So now let's think about, so the next thing we want to think about is like, what area we're not actively competing in? And the area I want to talk about is really finding that competitive edge. Like when you got an edge over your competition, that's how you succeed. Some of you have something that someone else might not have, right? What is your competitive edge? A factor what gives you an advantage over your rivals, over your competition. Now, who doesn't want that, right? Who doesn't want a competitive edge? I do. I want a competitive edge. Everyone has something about them that gives them something to win. We all got something, some unique skill, some trait that gives us an edge to win in competition. I got a few more minutes on this and then we're through. But I really want to talk about like some of the things, some of the action step that's needed to find your competitive edge. Right? Because everybody's different. We all got different trait. We all got different skills. Remember that. We all have something unique. Not all of us are the same, but we all have something that helps us compete with others. And honestly, the truth is, you don't want to always compete with others. The most important person you want to compete with is yourself. You always want to get better every single day. But I want to talk about how to tap into your competitive edge. So the first thing is understanding your strength. Obviously, that's the most important thing is what is your strength? What is your unique ability? Your gift, your strength, your skills. All of you have some special gift given by God that has helped you succeed. Those are the strengths that we have as individual. How do you find out what you're good at? Make a list of things that you've been doing for the last 20 years, some of the things that you constantly do. If you're a great reader, if you're a great artist, if you're great at building relationships, those are type of skills. All of those are skills. You just don't know how to use them. Ask your friends. Ask your friends to ask them what you're great at. What do you think I'm great at? And then write it down. So for example, for me, I've been communicating for a very long time. I never thought that this was a skill. But I remember the first time I was in 6th grade and we had this, I was in the OTC class and the teacher, well, he was I don't know what he was. He was, I guess he was just an OTC captain or something. And I was like maybe in middle school, I was like maybe 13 years old and he gave me the podium. And so I went at it. I'm not sure what I was ranting about, but I rant about something. I went in there with full confidence and I was ranting about something and people cheered. The kids cheered. Maybe I said something that was silly, but I never knew that was a gift. But being able to communicate with people, being able to develop connections through communication helped me build a lot of relationships. One of my skills is really building genuine relationships. So when people meet me, they see genuineness and so they connect very easily. So why is that important? A lot of my relationship, a lot of my friendships come from me just reaching out and just talking to people when I meet them. And those are the relationships that I have now that help me, right? In my business, in my personal life, in my marriage, all of those people comes from me just being able to communicate. I'm not saying you have to be great at communication. What is the skill that you have? Right? If you're someone who's great at math with data and you're just great with numbers, You're good at researching and gathering information, comparing data, doing research. That's your strength, that's your skill. If you're a creative person, you're an artist, you know how to brainstorm, you know how to problem solve. Those are skills. Like being an artist is a person who can brainstorm, who can come up with ideas, problem solving solution. You don't think about to use it that way, but yes, to be an artist, like when I think of an artist, I think of a person that sits down and just think of something invisible in their mind and making it happen on paper. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Like they can definitely figure out certain problems and come up with different ideas to solve problems in their brain, or they can obviously. I have some creative side of me as well. I like to work with my hands, so I went ahead and for me, it was learning Photoshop was the skill that I picked up because I like to use my hands and I like to create things. So if you guys don't know what your skills are, there's a bunch of personality tests out there. Kobe is one of them that I took in the past. Uh, there's Anagram, tell you your personality skills. I know a lot of ladies love learning about themselves, and so that's a great thing to look up. It's called Anagram. That's very interesting. It'll tell you your personality, your traits, and you can pick up your skills from there. But for me, Kobe was one of the things that I've taken that helped me understand who, like some of the strength that I carry, the things that I like to do. Just reach out and ask your friends what you're great at. Think about the things that you've been doing since your childhood that you have a lot of strength in. That's your strength, okay? And then you have to think what goes around that strength. Like, what can I use it for? Number two, you got to know what you have in your hand. Know what you have, what relationship you have. That's a competitive advantage. The relationship that you develop, the list of people that you know, people who can help you succeed. That's important. Know what you have. The friends that have certain skills. If you have friends that have photography skill, ask them to show you how to do things. Ask them to do it for you. Take some pictures for you, right? For your products, if you need them to take pictures. Learn to reach out to your friends, your connections. Remember, also your life experience, your life journey is also something that you have. Because all of us went through something hard when we were young to get to where we are today. And that's just a reminder that no matter how hard things get, everything will be okay. And most important, you live in America, the land of opportunity. It's easier to succeed here than anywhere else. I just want to remind you guys, this is what's in our hand, okay? We live in America. It's a place to succeed. Dude, you live in Vietnam, you live in Mexico, you live in Brazil, you will not succeed. It doesn't matter how hard you try. It does not matter how hard you try because it's harder to have opportunities in all those countries. Being in America is an opportunity. It's a strength to have. Our chances of succeeding is so much higher. And remember, we have CSM, you have me, you have the other mentors, you have the community, the people in the group. Everybody here has a skill. You just got to reach out and ask them. And if you guys don't know, do a skill analysis, right? Everybody, I recommend writing down your skills and sharing it in the community. Like, hey, these are the 3 things I'm great at. I know how to write. I know how to research. I know how to edit photos. Do that. Share it. So do not be a taker. Do not be those people. Be a giver, please. Everyone here needs to be a giver because when you take and you take too much, one day people just dump you and you can't take no more, right? They're going to have enough of your taking. So don't be a taker, be a giver, and write down the 3 skills that you can help other people with. Just because, the skills that you have might not be useful for you, but it might be useful for somebody else. So write down 3 skills that you have. If you're a great researcher, write that down. If you're good at organizing, that's a skill. Organizing. I met a lady, her business is to organize folders on Google Drive for businesses. That's her business. She goes into a computer. It's like, let me help you organize your life by organizing your files. And so it's like a whole system thing. I know some of you guys, if you guys share your screen right now, your computers, bro, you probably have like 100 icons on your desktop. It's all over the place. And you don't know where everything's at. Your download folder might be filled with a bunch of random stuff. And so some people are more organized than others, and then ask them how to show you how to be organized. So know what's in your hand. So share your three, I recommend sharing your three skills that can contribute to other people's life in our community. Write down your three skills, what you're great at, and then that way you guys can reach out to each other like, hey, I know you have this skill. Can I get some tips? Just don't, just don't bug them like crazy, but just like, hey, I need help. Do you have like 15 minutes to give me advice? Number three is you got to know yourself, know where you come from, know yourself. Think about what was the lowest point of your life. We all went through something hard. I was once broke. I was once, working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, nighttime, bartending, serving people. I was able to survive. I lived paycheck to paycheck. I was able to survive. That's that hardship, what gave me strength, because now I know that no matter what happened, I'll be okay because I just got to go to work. Also, know yourself. What makes you weak? What makes you weak? I have an addictive personality. I'm gonna be honest. That's my thing. I have an addictive personality. That's why I stay away from drugs and alcohol. I purposely do that because when I don't, do drugs or smoke weed, eat edibles or drink, I don't get distracted when I don't do those things. I have clarity in my mind. And sometimes when I do it, I go overboard. Right? That's why I don't gamble. I have to stay because I know how bad it is. I know how bad it can get if I do it, right? If I start doing it, it gets really bad. Who's a binge Netflix watcher here? I am. I like TV shows. Why? Watching it on a TV old school way where there's a one episode a week. Like, somebody else is keeping me under control. Like, hey, I'll come back and I'll watch it every Friday. Like, new episode release every Friday. You guys still remember like watching it on TV and like every week you gotta wait for one episode. I'm okay with that. But now, if there's a show that I've been watching, I hate to stop watching it. So I get very addicted to it and then I just binge it and it's terrible. I hate it. That's why I don't watch shows either. But I know myself. What is it about you? What makes you weak? Know yourself so that you don't stop yourself from falling into that trap. That's the thing. Dude, if women is your weakness, don't hang around women. Stay away from them. That's the truth. If women is your weakness, stay away from them. If you know, if dating is your weakness that distracts you a lot, stop dating for a while. And just chill. Learn to be by yourself. Because that's where the strength comes. And choose things that are good for you. Right? Start doing things that are like more productive, like exercising. Try to get addicted to exercising. Try to make things that you never liked before, things that you like reading, learning, practicing a new skill. Then knowing yourself, the last thing is what drives you. This is important for me because I had a buddy ask me this question. He's like, what would cause you to lose faith? And we're talking about losing faith in God. All of us here have some form of faith. Doesn't matter what religion you're in. What would cause you to lose faith? And the question, and what I thought about was like, what's the worst case scenario, right? I think the worst case scenario would be my kids dying. Somebody murdering my kids, kidnapping them, selling them to the cartel, whatever it may be, chop them up. That's the worst thing. Okay, I'm going kind of dark, but that's what I thought about. And I was like, hey man, that is the worst thing. I would lose faith in God if that happens. That's real for me. But what about you? What will cause you to lose faith? So no matter what happened for me, I'm not afraid. Does that make sense? Like if my family are okay, it doesn't matter what happened. I'm okay. So ask yourself, what will cause you to lose faith? And then that will be the driver, my family. My family is my drive. That's my purpose. It could be anything, right? It could be money, whatever it may be, like losing all my money, lose faith. Whatever it may be that will cause you to lose faith. The worst of the worst. Think about that so you be prepared. I'm not saying it's gonna happen. Jesus, hey guys, chill. It's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna let that happen. All right, come on. I'm prepped all the time. I'm prepared. Right? I'm prepped. I got this at my house. I can shoot this indoor, by the way. It doesn't blow anybody's brain out. You know, I'm prep. It's not gonna happen. So you guys don't have to worry. But know what will like what you can do that will like scare you the most because that's the lowest, the worst things that can happen. Now you prepare for life because no matter what happened after that, nothing's gonna phase you. And then you use that as a way to drive you as well. Like, hey, I don't want to ever let that happen. Let's go after it. I want to make sure that my kids are protected in a nice home. I want to live in a good neighborhood. I want to provide for my family. I want to be prepared. I want to do everything that in preparation for the worst. You got prepared. So anything that gets you moving, remember that. What drives you? What, and then the next question will be, what will cause you to lose faith? So answer that. So the goal of identifying this competitive edge, hopefully that was helpful for you, is to help you succeed against the masses, really, to give you a chance. Right? We all have dreams that we go after. We all have goals that we go after, but when you're not competitive about it, when you're not urgent about it, competitive nature gives you a sense of urgency. It's like you don't have anything else to eat, you and another person. There's nothing, there's no more food. There's only one bowl of rice. If you grew up in a family like I did, with there's 5 kids eating at the table when there's not a lot of food, you better eat quick because you're going to be the last one to go hungry. You know, you don't want to be the last one eating. Like we go after it. It's so funny when we sit at Thanksgiving, my wife's always so my wife, she is not competitive at all. And no, she is competitive, but man, when we eating at the table, she's not competitive at it. All right. She'll sit there, a bowl, and she'll just eat and she'll chew. And I'm like, bro, like you've been chewing that thing for like 10 minutes now. Like, how long you gonna be chewing? And we're at Thanksgiving dinner. We're talking about all my siblings are there. Like, we're just chowing down, we're just grabbing everything. Like, we're eating. By the time we finish like the food, everything else, she's like, hey, there's nothing left for me. I'm like, man, you're too late. You're taking too long. You know? So that's her personality. And I'm like, sometimes you got to be urgent, bro, when you have people fighting for the same thing. So just remember, you're in America. Everybody else is doing things that are not giving them the competitive edge. When you spend time doing the things that are opposite what everybody else is doing, if everybody's partying all the time, I'm not saying don't stop hanging out with your friends, but if everybody's partying every single weekend, do the opposite. If everybody's watching TV, go read. If everybody is following the news and politics, stop. Don't do that. I don't watch TV anymore. I don't care. I could care less. Because why? At the end of the day, it's not going to make a really big change for me, honestly, because it's actually distracting me from what's important, which is I got to go after my dream so I can actually make an impact in my life. Caring about what they're talking about or fighting over doesn't really matter. So if you continue to think that you have a disadvantage, you don't have a competitive edge, you're not going to have it. That's the truth of it. But there's ways for you to build that up. And so this is not a lack of resources that you guys have, okay? It's just a lack of resourcefulness that you have. You have enough resources here in America to give you a chance to win. You have enough connections. You have enough access. We have the internet. You have your community here to help you succeed. And you live in America, the greatest place for you to have an opportunity. Remember that. It doesn't matter how hard things get. You still live in America that gives you an opportunity. And that's what I want to share with you guys today, that you guys have a competitive edge already. Lean into that. You got to find that gift that you have, lean into it, cultivate it, and continue to develop it. And then you have the people around you that can help you win as well. Because America is big. Business is big. There's competition out there, but if you guys are in the community fighting together, you will succeed. There's enough pie for everybody. So that's all I wanted to share. Hopefully that was helpful.